Good afternoon, everybody. As everybody starts joining the webinar, welcome to our weekly webinar. As the noonday gun sounds in our Cape Town studio, we're really thrilled to kick off another insightful webinar session. For those who don't know me, I'm Neale Petersen. I'm the founder and content-in-chief of Real Estate Investor, South Africa's premier independent real estate content and education platform. For over 16 years, and at REI, we're deeply passionate about serving the South African real estate investor, the business community through our digital platform, rei.co.za, our monthly magazine, Real Estate Investor, our virtual and in-person events. And today, I have the pleasure of serving as your host and moderator for our masterclass again. And we're really thrilled to have you join us for this insightful session. It's hosted in conjunction today with WealthMasters Club, your trusted wealth partner with a proven track record of success. And our topic for today's masterclass is the phenomenal potential of geared returns and how you can use it to build a property portfolio with the bank's money. And today we have the privilege of welcoming our special guest, Coetzee, whom I'll introduce to you shortly. So first, a little bit of housekeeping. And if you happen to accidentally just log out during the webinar, don't worry, just simply use the same link as before to get back in. Recording and replays, those registered attendees who couldn't join us live today, don't worry, we will email you a link to the recording of the webinar. Alternatively, you can access the masterclass recording under replays in the event section of the rei.co.za website. And to our audience, your participation is encouraged. Please feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar for us to pose to our resident expert today, to Coert. And how to ask questions, just so that you know, there is a Q&A box, not the chat box, that's for general comments, and that's located on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And we'll address all your questions during the Q&A panel in the final session. There's also going to be poll questions, which I'm going to ask my producer just to pop it up on the screen right now. So, Ashik, if you could just pop up the poll questions. We have to put them all up together. We need you to complete all 4 questions. And so if everybody could just submit, answer those questions, yes, no answers, and then we'll keep it up for the next minute or so, and then we'll dive in, into this valuable session right now. So the essence of today's masterclass is really to, first of all, talk about gearing of real estate. So as I mentioned, Coetzee is the founder of and CEO of WealthMasters Club, and their mission is to empower individuals to retire earlier and wealthier. And as a successful property investor, wealth coach, businessman, and author of 3 enlightening books, Rich Mind, Rich Man, Wealth Creation with Mind Power and Property, Coert brings a wealth of knowledge to our discussion today. So we're going to be talking today about discovering expert insight to maximize returns. I think everybody's looking to find new ways of gearing their properties, of getting money, and how we can invest better. So we're going to look at strategic investment tips you can implement today, and a lot of invaluable resources to navigate the complexities of property investments, how to safeguard assets through specialized trusts, build generational wealth through property investment strategies and methods to ensure tax efficiency and financial security for your properties and your business. So by the end of today's session, you'll not only gain a wealth of knowledge in gearing, but also be inspired to take action. And I think there'll be an opportunity to engage and want to reach out to Coert and maybe attend some of his courses or even go for a free consultation. We will offer that. So before we begin, I just encourage all of you to actively participate. Thank you. I think we can end off the poll now, I think, and we'll share the results, and we'll see what we got with our results, and we can see more or less which has come through. Do you know what gearing means? The majority of people do. 26% don't know. Do you know how to use gearing a property? It's a 50-50 in terms of that. Do you know the capital value currently available in your current property investments? Yes, 78% do, 22% don't. How many properties do you own? One, we got 50%, 2 to 4, 6%, 4 to 6, and we got more than 6, 44%. So we certainly got a lot of investors here with multiple properties. So thank you for that. We appreciate your input on this poll for us today. So as I mentioned, Coetzee. So Coet, maybe you just want to introduce yourself to the audience. Yeah, I think a lot of people do know you, but for those who don't know you, maybe you just want to just do a quick intro there.
Thank you very much, Neale. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Yes, my name is Coetzee, as Neale said, and I started the WealthMasters Club back in 2003. But the system I'm explaining is actually already developed in 1996, so it's a few decades old already. And it's working very, very well already for a long, long time for thousands of people. So, guys, yes, that is what I'm going to share with you. I'm the founder of the club in the system. So I'll speak to you now.
Okay, great stuff. So, so once again, I think it's very important. We're going to deal with a lot of questions, and during the presentation, I'm just going to ask everybody to please submit the questions. Is a mention of sound is very low. I'm not quite sure on which side it is, Peter, but we'll certainly try and address that. Maybe could just check your volume session on your side. Certainly on our side, I think the sound looks all fine. It is being recorded, Peter, but we are looking at that. Thanks for the heads up on that. He says he thinks it's my mic over here. Is it? Can you hear me clear? How do I sound to you? Do I sound?
It is a bit low. Your sound is low.
Okay, we could also, maybe what I could do is just
mine is on max.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, we could probably switch around to the other speakers. I don't know whether that's better. If that makes it any difference there. Does that make any difference, Coet, or is that more or less the same?
Same, yeah.
Okay, that looks like it's more or less the same over there. Okay. All right, so Coet, I'm going to hand over to you now. I know you've got a presentation. I know it's quite involved, and I think it's very important. So we are going to be showing you a number of slides. So Coet, I'm going to hand over you to take it from here, and then we'll have a great discussion at the end.
Okay. All right, thank you, Neale. I'm going to share my screen. I think that's the best. Let's start there. Oh, no, wrong one. That's the right one. Yes.
Perfect.
There we go.
That's the one. There we go.
Just minimize its little screens here. Okay. Okay, guys. You have to make money with Coert property. Sorry, let me just see where I can get rid of those little pictures here on the side. Sorry, guys. I'm always battling with the technology. Just look at this, at the color of my beard, and you will see I'm from old school, long before these things were developed. How do I get the little pictures away on the right? The pictures of us.
No, you won't be able to, Coet. That's unfortunately your face does stay in the background on this. Yeah, okay. So people will be able to see you.
Okay, right. Let's get it on. Okay, guys, I'm going to tell you about a very exciting thing today. And I think since we saw now in the poll, so many of you have property. Some of you might now learn new things, but I think maybe you know it. But maybe you do not know it in a context that I'm going to share it today with you. Because it is exciting, really. What I experienced so far over the years is if I tell people just these basic things that I'm going to share with you, and I'm talking now to people, speaking to people at the Bryans, so people who are not really into property. They go into property, they get into property when they hear this stuff. Okay. Right, let's start. The WealthMasters system is administered by an international destinata group of companies, which are properly registered, authorized, and regulated by. Now, guys, I'm going to show you now a long list of it, and I think it's important because there are so many scams going around nowadays. So many people pretending to have this knowledge and this robot that will trade and that thing and all this coin and that coin. Guys, always make sure you only deal with registered people, regulated people. So right, I'm actually bragging when I say these are all the places where we are registered, our organization, a destinata group of companies. It is obviously the CIPC, the Companies and Intellectual Properties Commission, according to the Companies Act of South Africa. CSA, the Master of the High Court of South Africa. All our trusts are registered with the Master. FISA, the Fiduciary Institute of South Africa. SAIPA, the South African Institute of Professional Accountants. We are members of all these institutions. SARS, South African Revenue Services, know exactly what we do, how we do it, and so on. They have no problem in doing it already since 1996. PPRA, the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority. So all our state agents, property managers, and so on are properly registered and regulated. And then obviously the most important one perhaps is the Financial Sector Conduct Authority as authorized financial service providers. So there are 2 FSP numbers that you can even check if you want to make sure that we are legit. And FICE, Financial Advisory Intermediary Services Act. As a matter of fact, many of you might know, others not, but I do present full-day seminars from time to time on a regular basis. And FICE sent the compliance officer on a regular basis to come and check us out. So the last time that they came, they gave me the green light again and said, everything we do is 100% in line with the law and all those things. And that is even the approval number that they gave me, 4990. So guys, then also, we are registered with the Association of Accounting Technicians of the United Kingdom and the WPK, the Chamber of Public Accountants of Germany. You will see now why we are registered with them. In South Africa, we have offices in Cape Town, Durban, and Pretoria. So if ever you need our services, then that is where you will get the services from one of our offices in those three cities. And in the United Kingdom, we have an office in London and an office in Bristol. And in Germany, we have an office in Leipzig. Right, so we are actually then an international company. So we do it worldwide already for many, many years. I've presented many, many seminars in London over the years. But why property? Why property? It's exciting. I love it. It's my passion. But I want to show people now, people who are perhaps here for the first time today and they are interested in property but not excited yet, you're going to be excited after this. This is what happened to property in the last 57 years. Now, a graph like this should already excite you a lot because this is fantastic. It's according to a graph or according to stats that I get from South African banks. So I update it on a regular basis. And then if you look at this, then it looks like it is always just growth, 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 growth. It is more or less what it is. In the last 57 years, we only had 3 years of negative growth. Now, that is already a good enough reason to be in property, but I'm going to give you better reasons later. But just to show you how insignificant the negative growth is, if I'm not putting the arrow there, you would not even have noticed that. That's 2009. Now, some of you might remember that was the worst recession in living memory, according to newspapers and so on. And that was because of that subprime crisis that started in America. All right, that is insignificant in the bigger picture. That year, the growth on property for all houses between 80 and 400 square meters, because that is the category in which I move for my investment properties, the negative growth was 0.4%. Only 0.4%, not even a full percentage point. And then people said that was the worst recession in living memory, not in the property industry. That was the worst in the property. In the middle 80s, we had 2 consecutive years of negative growth. Also not much, but it was negative. So right, 3 negative years in 57 years. Get into property, guys. Get into it. On average, it gives us a growth of for about 10% per annum on average for the whole 57 years. But 10% is not much. I know. But don't forget, we can easily and safely leverage it or gear it. And that is bringing me now closer to the topic of the day. Because 10% is nothing. If you say to somebody, invest in property, and this is the average that we get is 10%, then I don't think they will be very excited about that. Because there are funds on the stock exchange, exchange-traded funds that might give you 20%, 22%. I know funds like that. Now, let me tell you, 10% in property is a lot more than 24% or whatever percentage they bring on a fund. It is a lot more. Why? Because we can gear it. We can leverage it. What is gearing? Gearing is using a lot of other people's money to gear an insignificant return on a small amount of your own money to something spectacular, like the rich. That is how rich people do it. Rich people very seldom, and I'm talking about investors now, people who invest in property. Not all rich people invest in property, but most rich people do have property portfolios. That is how they got rich, I think, in the first place. But anyways, so they won't use all their cash, for example, to to invest in property. They have a different way of doing it. They gear it. So let me show you now today what gearing is. And there on the right, you see that little thing there, yellow thing, OPM. OPM stands for other people's money. So that is how rich people make money. They make money with other people's money. And don't worry, I'm not talking about your money. I'm talking about the bank's money. So that is what we do. We make actually money with the bank's money. Let me show you. I'm going to show you a few scenarios now, but before we start with them, I just want to, let me just see something here quickly. I just want to, before I show you the scenarios, let's just make it as simple as possible. So in order to do that, to make them the same in terms of all these factors, let's agree. I think it'll be easy to do. Let's say there's zero transfer duty for properties up to R1 million. I think you all know that. It's only for R1 million and more that you start paying transfer duty. So up to that point, zero. That is also why one of the reasons why I prefer 2-bedroom townhouses in security complexes. You always find them in that category. It's rather just below R1 million or just above R1 million. Very little transfer duty, if any, payable on a 2-bedroom townhouse. And transfer cost is included in the price of plan. So when I buy in a new development, what I like about that, especially if you buy in first phase, it's the best place to buy, first phase or second phase, then you will also see that they advertise it as the transfer cost is included in the price. Sometimes they will advertise it, there's no transfer cost. That's actually nonsense. There will always be transfer cost, but it is already included in the price. And that's the part I like about it. I'm going to gear that also even. All right, so and then a deposit required by the banks. Normally, the standard deposit required by the banks is 20%. Okay, that might differ depending on what your financial situation is and your credibility with the banks and so on. But the standard at the moment, the norm, is a 20% deposit. I know of people who get 100% bonds, and I know about people who have to pay a 50% deposit. Otherwise, they cannot get a bond. But let's agree now for these scenarios that I'm going to show you, that 20% is the required deposit. Inflation rate, let's work on 10%, just to use a figure there. That is something that is very, very debatable. But anyway, let's not go there. Interest rate of 10%. We work with round figures to make easy comparisons. Monthly interest, a growth rate of 10%, which is quite accurate in terms of the averages for the last 57 years for property. And then monthly interest and cost is covered in full by the tenant's rent. So let's assume that. I know sometimes when you buy a property and you put a tenant in, you might have a shortfall, initial shortfall, a little shortfall, which will be every year, the shortfall will be a little less till you break even and start making profit, if that is what you want to do. But let's assume for this purpose here that the rent is enough. There are developments like that we are actually promoting at the moment at the Destinata group of companies. If you're interested, you can let us know, where you can buy a property brand new, off plan, and the rent will be enough to cover all the cost. And what the cost that I'm talking about is the monthly bond repayments, as well as levies and maintenance provisions and stuff like that. Right. Okay. Now that's done. What's happening now? Sorry, clicker was not working. Okay, now let's go and see what the income portfolio can look like. Now, guys, what I have there on the top, as you can see, it's an exchange-traded fund. It's the first year now. Exchange-traded fund. That is a typical fund that you get through the insurance brokers and so on. Might be a Coronation Fund, the Allen Gray Fund. There are many of these funds, good funds, excellent funds. Nothing wrong with the funds themselves. If you compare the one fund with the other fund, yes, that is comparing apples with apples. But I'm going to compare now apples with pears, some people might say, because on the right there, I have a property, my own property. Now, I want to show you now what you can achieve with a property in comparison with a fund. If you put your money in a fund, then I don't think you will get rich out of that. I do not know people, any people who got rich by saving money. No, money must work. So on the right, your own property, it's working. Now let's say now another assumption is we have 2 million rand to start playing now with. So we're going to compare both of them with each other, those two. Right, so the value that we put in on a fund, we put in 1 million cash, 1 million rand cash. And we have 1 million that we buy property with them, cash and contact. Let's assume now they both grow with 10%. And if I ask you the question, how much will 10% be on 1 million? You will all be correct. That is exactly what it is. That is the growth then on the properties in 12 months, in the first 12 months. What is the new value then? Okay, still an easy question, easy answer. It's 1.1 million for the traded fund. And for the property, 1.1 million. Property is now worth 1.1 million after a year. Okay, let's say now we withdraw that 100,000 because we need to buy food and clothes and stuff like that, living expenses. So we're going to withdraw the 100,000 in the exchange traded fund. And we're going to do the same on a property. We're going to withdraw the 100,000. Now that is something that that many people are perhaps not so familiar with. How do you draw money out of a property? Most people sell a property to make a profit, to get that capital growth out. No, that is like selling the cow that is delivering the milk. No, 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 you never sell it. Not if the 100,000 is a goal. If that is what you want, you just refinance it, guys. That's what we do at the club, at the WealthMasters Club. And if you don't know how to do that, then you come to one of our presentations and we will teach you. We draw that 100,000 out of the property and we have it in our bank accounts quicker than most people will get 100,000 on a traded fund in their bank accounts, because there you have to give notice. Some of them you have to give 6 months notice if you want that 100,000. Yeah, in property you could have it within 2 weeks in your bank account, that 100,000. Okay, that's a story for another day. But let's say now I withdrew both sides the 100,000. So what is the new value of the fund? It's back to 1 million. Yes, I think many of you guessed that. Quite right. What is the new value of the property after I took the 100,000 out? Surprise, surprise. The value didn't drop when I take the equity out. The value is still the same. It's 1.1 million. You see already the big difference between a fund on a stock exchange and your own property? That is already another reason why you should rather invest your money in properties. Properties that you can control yourself. You can manage them even if you want to, well, although I won't recommend that. I prefer to use rental agents and so on. Then I don't have the hassles of tenants. But fact of the matter is the growth and the value is so much better on the other side. Let's take a look now for the same property in the second year. So we start with the value that we entered in a fund on the first year. That's 1 million. Still 1 million, remember, after we took 100,000 out. And on the right, it is 1.1 million because the value didn't drop when I took 100,000 out in the first year. So right, let's say it's 10% growth again. There we go. It's again 100,000 on the fund. And it is now 110,000 on the property, because that is the value of the property. Now it's 1.1 million, and 10% of that is 110,000. So what is the new value now? It's 1.1 million after you add the 10% capital growth, and on the right, for the property, your own property is now 1.2 and 2,210,000. 1,210,000. Guys, it is already 110,000 and more the value than the fund. Let's withdraw the growth again. Let's withdraw the 100,000 again in a fund, and we withdraw the 210,000. Oh, sorry, the 110,000 growth. You saw that one there? That is the one that we withdraw. Not 200,000. That's the value. So we withdraw the 110,000. And let's take now a look at the new value. The fund drops back immediately to 1 million. And you take the 100,000 out. The property is now worth 1.2 million. Still, the same as what it was before you took the 110,000 out. So guys, that difference is just growing bigger and bigger over the years. I'm just showing you 2 years here. Imagine now 10 years. Imagine now 20 years. That it is leaving a fund so far behind that it can never, ever catch up. It's impossible. But that is not all. The best of all is actually the fact that the biggest portion of the money you invest in property will not be your money. No, it will be the bank's money. And the tenant pays the bank. Fantastic. Tenant administration is something different. Many people say, oh, that's not so easy. Tenants are a nightmare. It is just because you do not know how to do it. I can assure you, if you're a member of our club, and if our service providers manage your property for you, a non-paying tenant is evicted within 60 days, all costs covered. That is how we do it. Easy, easy, easy. You can only do it easily if you have the right lease agreement. The right lease agreement is crucial here. And that is the problem why most people, the reason why many people who are not members of our club, they have nightmare situations with non-paying tenants. If you're a member of our club, you won't even know if you have a non-paying tenant. You will just get your money. Right, let's carry on. I want to show you now that, as I said, the biggest portion of the money you invest in property will not be your money. It's called gearing. What is gearing? Gearing is using a lot of other people's money to gear an insignificant return on a small amount of money, your own money, to something spectacular like the rich. I'm repeating it. I know I said it already, but I want you to understand it very, very well. So let's look now at the ROI, return on investment. It's actually return on cash, you could say, of a geared growth portfolio. And there I have my two funds again. The exchange traded fund and my own geared property, which is my fund. This is a fund, personal fund, controlled fund, controlled by me or you, whoever it is. It's your fund. Let's start again. If I have $1 million to invest in each of them, right? So I'm going to put $1 million in the fund again. I'm starting again. It's now year one. The goal is now to calculate the rate of return here. So it's not about income now, it's about capital growth. So if I put $1 million in property, then the value of my portfolio, $1 million in property is, okay, well, sorry, I jumped the gun here. There's 1 million, 1 million each. The value then in the fund is 1 million. But now the surprise is that the value in your property fund is 5 million. Because with 1 million, you can easily buy 5 houses, townhouses. Remember what I said? The banks will give us a 20%, ask us a 20% deposit here. So it's an 80% bond that we get here. So therefore, with 1 million, 200,000 down on each property, you can buy 5 properties with 1 million each. I hope you understand. If not, put your question there in the comments. We'll come back to it later. All right, so let's add the capital growth now. 10% on 1 million in a fund is 100,000 again. 10% on 5 million is 500,000. You see the difference? Big. It is just getting bigger and bigger. So the return then in the fund is 100,000. That is what it is. 10% growth is also the return. It's 100,000. The return here is 500,000. Yes. So the rate of return then in a fund is 10%. The rate of return in the property is 50%. 50% on your cash. You cannot get that in a savings account. You cannot get it in any investment policy, pension plan. You cannot get it anywhere. You cannot even get it in an exchange traded fund. You can get it nowhere. You can only get it in a property. Now, what about the risk? What is debt? Yes, I know it is debt. We make money with debt. That is what we do at the club. We make money with debt. We make money with losses, you will see. We make money with everything that is considered negative. But I want to talk to you quickly about debt. There are two kinds of debt. It is the right kind of debt and the wrong kind of debt. That is how I see it. Now, the wrong kind of debt is the kind of debt that you have on your furniture, on your car, on your credit cards, clothing accounts. That's the wrong kind of debt. You cannot make money with that kind of debt. The right kind of debt is the debt that you have on a house. As you can see here, a debt that is giving you 50% return. I invest the bank's money and the return on the bank's money is my money. And who's paying the bank? The tenant is paying the bank. It costs me nothing. You just have to sign documents. That's all. And go on holiday, travel the world, smell the roses, and wear silly shirts like mine, and so on, you know. That's freedom. That's financial freedom. What many people are not aware of is that you can even get 55% of that 5 million rand back from SARS with the PDM method, which is the property depreciation method of the WealthMasters system. We are doing it already for a long, long time now. I think it is since 2008 that you can get 55% of the cost on a new unit. There's a condition, it must be a new unit for the 55%. Only on brand new units. You must be the first owner. Then you can claim back from SARS 55%. You don't have to do it. My accountants will do it on your behalf. So you just use my service providers. They are doing it very successfully every year. And I challenge you, go and speak to your accountants. Very few accountants are familiar with this. And if you're a developer, you get 100% of the cost back. If you build that property yourself, for example, then you get 100% of it back from SARS. So guys, that is not even included in that 50% return that I'm talking about there. I don't have to include it because then it's really going to look like a pyramid scheme. Too good to be true, then it is not. No? So now I'm showing you stuff that looks like it is not. It is too good to be true, but it is so true. Let's take a look now at the second year with the geared property fund of my own. Start there again. Same story. But now take a look at the value. Remember now that 1.1 million value there on the left, that is what we ended up on the previous slide, in the previous year, first year. But on the right, we ended off with a 5.5 million value. Right, 10% growth. There we go again. Return 110,000 there on the exchange rate fund. Here on the right, it is 550,000. That is the return. And the rate of return then is 11% there, and it's 55% there. On the previous one, it was 50%. So guys, it grew with 5 percentage points in 1 year. I don't think you should think twice. If you're not in property yet, get into property investment. Those of you who already have houses, maybe it's time to consider refinancing them and use that refinance money to grow your portfolio with. That is what we teach at the WealthMasters Club. What do you think the insurance companies do with your monthly contributions? Exactly what I showed you now. That is what they do. They use your money and they gear that money. They gear your money, your contributions, and they do exactly the same with property. It is just, the only difference is they don't do it with townhouses like me. They do it with big shopping centers, complexes, office parks, industrial parks. They buy property with geared money, with the money that you use or you give them. So why give your money away? I think one property is better than most insurance or pension. Let me rather put it this way. It is more. The rent on one property, fully paid property, for example, will be more than what your pension will be after 45 years of contributions. Do the calculations and you will see. Project it with the Excel spreadsheet. Take the future value of money in consideration, because very, very few investment products, insurance products, take future value of money in consideration. The Wealth Mastery system works the best with entry-level townhouses and security complexes in the right type of area as described in detail in the Wealth Masters online course. So if you want to know more, you can come to one of our longer presentations, our seminars, or you can enroll for our online course. But it's for members only. How do you become a member of our club? There's only one way to become a member of the club, and that is you have to become a client of the club. So we have your names. Neale will have your names. So he will send it through to my people, and they will contact you. And due to the fact that you are here today, and that you put your name down today to enroll for this webinar, you get the special on our consultation fees. Our consultation fees for our wealth officers, because you will get the consultation with one of our registered wealth officers, and their normal rate per hour is 1,950 Rand per hour. But you get it at a very, very special price. You get a 100% discount just because your name is on the real estate investors list. Thank you, guys. That's the story that I wanted to tell you. Neale, over to you.
Great stuff. Awesome, Coet. Thanks very much. I think it's very insightful. You know, what I'm just blown away about, there's just so many people that don't know about this gearing. If you could just shut down your, just close the presentation, the stop share button there. Good. There we go. We're back again.
Okay.
So I just think there's so many people that just don't know about, you know, this gearing, and and it should be, you know, it should be something that should be publicized a lot wider. And I just want to demonstrate an example from last week, you know, in South Africa, how property ownership can change this country. And I'm sure you'll concur with me as well, Coert. Just last week, I was at a conference, and, you know, the Free Market Foundation is there. So I don't know if you know that there's around about 7 to 10 million structures that are owned by people in townships. And the problem is they don't own the land. And if there was a land transfer in conjunction with that transfer, there could be an absolute massive, but like a massive unlocking of wealth. So what I'm really trying to demonstrate to the audience here, what you actually telling them is, the more properties they get, the more you can actually unlock that investment over a period of time. And the gold is in that. So why is it that this is not publicized? Because it's almost like we come to this forum and there's a couple of new people say, I didn't think of it like that. Oh, it's risky. It's all these different kind of things. What are your comments on around that?
Yeah, are you asking me, Neil, or the audience?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yeah. Asking
Yeah.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
Your thoughts
I
on that.
agree
Yeah.
with you 100%. If we can get the land ownership of the area that you occupy, if we can get that in the hands of the people, then you will see a whole new South Africa. Really, it'll unlock billions,
Yeah.
trillions, a
Yeah.
lot of money. And even one thing as a matter of interest for the listeners is that many people are not aware of the fact that RDP houses can be transferred into the owner of the house, the person living in. It's something like after 8 years, then they have the right to
Yeah.
get transfer, and then from that moment, the property has value. Before that, it's worth nothing. So you have to take transfer. So if you know any people with an RDP house, make them aware of this fact. Let them go to an attorney, check it up, and see if they can, even from the council, attorneys will get from the council the registration date when they took occupation of that RDPRs. And then in terms of the law, I think it is 8 years, but I'm under correction, it's 7 or 8 years, I think, they can take transfer of the property. They must do that. That is how we will change the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just believe it's a massive capital unlocking that could happen, and you could change this country significantly. And the government could do it at they could just take a pen and literally say, that land is now yours, that you are currently renting, you got title to that land.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
okay, so I've got some other questions here, and I've got one comment here from an anonymous attendee. He says it seems a bit simplistic. ETFs don't require maintenance or levies, and more importantly, he's saying the general state of sectional title properties is deteriorating. Your comments here, Coert.
Okay. My properties, and I have a big portfolio. My properties also require absolutely zero attention from me. I never ever painted one in the last 30 years. I've never even collected rent in the last 30 years, or whatever problem, or evicted non-paying tenants. I don't even know my tenants, and I don't want to know them. I don't even have lease agreements with them. It all works with a proper letting agent, a proper property manager, because that's the next level of letting agent. So get a property manager, a real property. Yes, they cost money, but it is like the maximum is 10% of the rent. And the bigger your portfolio, the better rent you can arrange with them. I know of people who are paying 6%, 5%, but then you need a big portfolio. So guys, that even if it is 10%, the full amount allowed by the law is 10% of the rent. If that is what it costs you to pay, then you are paying it with a smile, and you will still earn more net than what you will earn gross on that fund on the stock exchange. So use other people's money, use other people's time, and use other people's skills. Those are the 3 principles that you should work on. Then you don't have to worry about who paints it. So let's just look at a little thing like that. The painting makes me now think of something. I only buy townhouses in security complexes. So there's a body corporate. Sectional title, that's what it is. And you never have to paint them. The body corporate paints them. You know that. Your only concern is the inside. And that is where, when it is necessary for them to be painted inside, that's when your property manager will get a quote. You can tell him, you give him certain limits in which he can go ahead, or limits where he must come to you first. If it is too expensive over a certain amount, then you approve it. So that will be your only involvement in it. And then that person will do the rest. He will let the property manager, he will get the contractors in, he will organize it. No, you won't even know these things are happening in the background if you do it the way I do it.
Okay, great. I just want to elaborate a little bit on this anonymous's comment, where he said the general state of sectional title properties deteriorating. So I think he's referring to the general property market and that. And we know that the property market has, it's been a bit tough in terms of sales. The rental market is booming. It's absolutely booming here in South Africa. So we've never had a more robust, in fact, rental market in a number of years. There's a number of records. It's just a shortage, and specifically in the Western Cape. So maybe just talk a little bit about that general state of the property market in sectional titles. And I think that's what he's kind of alluding to.
You must keep in mind, last figure I saw that was published was that we have a shortage of 2.6 million houses in South Africa. I think it is actually more. But let's work on that one. That already shows you that there is a huge demand for rental property, because we invest. If you're a property investor, then you invest in the basic need of a human being. They need to have a roof over their head. There are three basic needs of human beings. It's food, clothing, and shelter. We are talking the shelter part here. They always need that. And yes, obviously, they will then live in places that they can afford. If they can only afford that neglected complex in the wrong side of town, then at least they have a roof over their head. But you will see if you come to our presentations, or if you do our education, our courses, then you will see that we promote a certain type of property in a certain type of area, because I don't want to have the hassles of informal settlements, for example, and so on. So we make a big deal out of the right location. When we see a town or a portion of the town is deteriorating for whatever reason, might be a squatter camp that is creeping closer or something like that, then all the values start dropping and so on. Before that happens, you must keep your eye on it. So what I do from my side is I like to travel a lot. So I drive through the areas in the suburbs where I have many properties. And when I see something is going to change here, then I take a decision to sell before it is too late. But it is very seldom, guys, that we have that situation. If you do your homework before the time, before you buy, like, for example, you buy in a new development, brand new, off plan. You go on a website because you get the pamphlets at the traffic lights. You go on a website tonight and you see where it is situated. And the next day you drive out there with the family. You're going to take a look at where you're going to buy your new investment property. And when you get there, you see it's just an open piece of veld. Closest houses are like 3 kilometers from there. And you say, right, this is the ideal place. We will start here. The new town, new city is going to start here. All right. And you buy. That's a mistake. It's the right property you buy, perhaps. In the right area, perhaps you buy. But it might also be the wrong area. And I learned that lesson years ago when I bought a unit in Gordons Bay Golf Villas, or the golf estate, the public golf estate in Gordons Bay. And on the golf course, I went out there and I saw it. I saw that the border of this new complex that they're going to buy, that they're going to build, is right fencing on the fairways of the golf estate. You will walk out of the estate on the golf course. And I bought one. And around it, except for the golf course on one side, on the other side, there was nothing. It was just a piece of veld. And 6 months after they started building it, the squatters came and they started squatting on the back fence of that new development. And they are still there today. And we couldn't understand, how is it possible? And then I looked into who that land belongs to, where the squatters are now. And then I discovered, and I learned a very valuable lesson with this discovery. I discovered it was Transnet land, government land. So we have many such incidents. You can just imagine, we are around already since 1996, nearly 3 decades already. So we've learned lessons, guys, that is priceless, like this one, and I'm sharing with you now. So now, when there's a new development, then my property manager, the one managing my letting agent, my tenants also, my property manager, before I buy, he will go and do a survey there, research and so on, see who the lands belong to, what is happening, what is on the other side of the hill, is there a squatter camp creeping closer to my complex, to my side of the hill, all those things. And then he will come back with a report, and I will not buy until he gives me the green light. And he will not give me the green light, and I have problems afterwards, because that means he might lose my entire portfolio if I lose my trust in him. So make use of service providers, other people's skills, other people's time. He can do a survey like that, or a research like that, much better than I am. He's a professional. He's doing it every day. Instead of trying, many people burning their fingers with property are people who try to do these things themselves. Don't. unless you're a property expert yourself. That's a different thing. If you are an estate agent, then obviously you are an expert. You can do certain things yourself, but still, let other people rather manage it.
Surround yourself with experts. But I think also the lesson there is, Coert, is also you got to do your due diligence properly. You know,
Yeah.
buying properties
That's
and
the word I was
understand
looking
things.
for. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. You know, you can't just buy anything that's on show, and this is what investors have to do. So anyway, so I think very valuable input there. So question here from Darius. He said, what would you choose, 50 million on a good retail center or 50 million worth of good townhouses, and why?
Are you asking me?
Yes, absolutely.
Townhouses with 50 million.
Yeah.
50 million, I can buy a lot of townhouses. And the reason why is a basic need of a human being. Shopping centers are not basic needs of human beings. There were times in recessions and so on that the shops closed down and shopping centers looked like ghost centers. Commercial property is actually, for me, not so suitable. I know there are people who are making a lot of money with commercial property, but it is not my forte. So what I'm talking about is something that the ordinary people can also invest in. A young person of 28 can invest in a townhouse. That is what I recommend they do, but they cannot buy a shopping center. Now they go and buy shares in a fund that owns a shopping center. Then you have that problem that I showed you with the blocks, the green blocks and the yellow blocks. So no, basic need of a human being. Take a look at the recessions. All of them, always, when there's a recession, like in 2009 with a big recession, the subprime crisis, I saw many houses, luxury houses, standing empty in golf estates. Like I'm sitting at the moment here in Woodhill Golf Estate in the east side of Pretoria. And in this estate here, I've never seen so many empty houses, luxury houses standing empty. So stay away from that, from luxury houses. When I talk residential, I talk townhouses. Because in that same period, there was not a single townhouse empty. Because if people cannot afford a luxury house anymore, they scale down. What else can they do? And they go and live in my townhouses. They rent from me. So then the townhouses are full. Think back about the COVID time. During COVID, there was one industry that did very well, for example, also just a extra here, and that was the nursing industry. So think about buying close to places that always provide work, or like factories sometimes or so. And anyways, that's a story for another day. Fact is, in COVID, people worked from home, many of them. The nursing industry couldn't work from home, so that is why I bought many units close to hospitals. And I had a good time during COVID. But otherwise, always make sure that you buy affordable housing, where people will always go through that house. It looks like this. When you leave school and start working, all of us, older people now like me, all of us lived sometime in the past in a one-bedroom flat, or even a bachelor flat, two-bedroom flats before we buy our first house. So it is always in need. There are always new people, irrespective of whether it is a recession or not. People are finishing school, people are finishing varsity, and they start working and they want a house. And it is an entry-level house. Nobody starts with a luxury house. You start with an entry-level. Entry-level townhouses are always in demand. That's my experience, unless the area changes. But it's easy to avoid that.
Right. And maybe could you want to also just comment also on property developers? Because I know there have been some people, you know, a part of your due diligence, you spoke about the due diligence and
Yes.
the area and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, how important is that too in terms of the selection of your townhouse?
Very, very important. Very important, because there are obviously, or like in all industries, you have the cowboys and the fly-by-nights and all those things. And people who are providing shoddy workmanship. So that is another benefit of having a property manager. They are also connected with each other through the TPN network and other networks and so on, where they know about bad developers, bad developments, because they share their experience with each other in the tenant profile network especially. And they all belong to associations where they have conferences from time to time with each other. But even if it is just my property manager now, say for example in Cape Town, where most of my properties are, He knows the Cape Town market inside out. He knows the good guys and the bad guys, and he knows who to avoid and who not. So it doesn't matter how nice and beautiful the pictures look when they advertise this new development. It can be a nightmare that you are buying there because of shoddy workmanship, for example, bad workmanship. And yeah, that's crucial, Neale. So like with us at WealthMasters Club, we have a blacklist of all the bad ones that we need to avoid. It's actually a free service that we actually give. If you're not sure about the complex, contact us and ask us about that complex. And then we will tell you whether we have information on them or not. Stay away or go ahead. We won't charge you.
Okay, I see another one here from Darius. He actually wanted you to repeat the website name where you can buy properties at break even on year one. I mean, there's quite a, I don't think there's a lot online. And also, I would say rather go do your own due diligence, as you suggested early on, and rather do your homework properly to find that property. But I don't know if you got some ideas on that one?
Yes, obviously you need to know people. So you need to know us. I cannot talk on behalf of other people how they find it or where they find such things. So if you want to know where we find it, then you just have to come to us, because we're obviously not going to tell you our sources and so on. But we are in this game already for a long, long time. And most, or many, I'll put it that way, many first phases are already, will be made available to us first at a discount. And then it's a bargain also that you didn't buy. You buy from us. And it's only for the developers that we like, that we know. We know what they can produce. We know what the final product looks like. And yes, so join the club. Then you get access to the information, but you never get access to the sources.
Okay, another comment here from Anonymous. If you buy new developments, are you not paying a huge premium for those properties, as it will not be cash flow positive from day one?
That is true for some of the phases, for the last phases. It works like this. Let me explain to you. Do you have time, Neale?
Yes, we do. We
okay,
absolutely do.
Because I love this. Okay, let me explain something else to you. And it's very, very nice to know. So that is the right word. It will be beneficial to know. In a new development, in first phase, let's say, for example, they start with a certain amount there. That is a price that they charge. Let's say it is R1 million. That's first phase. And then how it works is they have to achieve like a 60%. That's more or less the norm, 6% pre-sales before the bank will release the development bond, which is a big bond. The development bond is the bond that they gave to the developer, subject to the condition. One of the conditions is that 60% of the first phases properties must be sold off plan. Nothing is built yet. So when that is achieved, then a bank release that big amount. It might be 30 million. That is what they use now for the streets and for the electricity, all the services. Electricity, stormwater, streets, walls, gates, the security gate in the around the where you enter the complex one day in the future. All those things, all the services. And that is the big money for or a big bond, obviously. And the banks would love that money to work as soon as possible, because after the developer identified an area and went through the rezoning process, which can take years, then they partner with a bank, because it's only one bank working on that development, which is again in our favor, because that bank is like a partner. It is in their benefit also to get to that 60% pre-sales as soon as possible, so that they can release that 30 million or 50 million to start earning interest on it. Because as long as the money is in the escrow account of the bank, they cannot use it for anything else. It is allocated to that developer. It can only start earning money for the bank when the money is released. So the result for us, the consequence of that for them, and the result for us, is that we now get bonds a lot easier and lower bonds. Not lower because of the fact that the banks are giving us ask us a bigger deposit. No, it is because we get from WealthMasters Club, Destinata Properties, my property manager, they get that first phase at a huge discount. Like the last week we got one, a 300,000 rand discount per unit. 300,000, and we pass it straight on to our members. Our members are buying. So there already you have a very, very good chance now that the rent will be more than a bond repayment. But you only start paying the bond repayment after you took occupation. Now, occupation in a new development like that, if you bought in first phase, occupation will be 2 years, 18 months to 2 years later, if it was in first phase that you bought. And for that period now, your bond is now grounded in all those things. But for that period, you're not servicing the bond. You're not paying the bond. Nothing is built yet. They only start building then thereafter. So just keep it in mind. By the time that you take occupation, that property is already worth a lot more because capital growth is not standing still. It is running already, whether it is built or not. It is just the value that you gave the banks and they gave you the bond on. That amount is, the value amount is just growing automatically. This is how it is happening. But now we have something extra in a new development that you won't find anywhere else. Because after they achieve the 6% pre-sales in the first phase, then they will start selling phase 2. Phase 2, the same unit, same size, same look, same everything, will sell for about 6% more than what they sold them for in phase 1. That is now without the discount that they gave us. That is just on the normal sale price that it was, 6%. And then phase 3 will be 6% more of phase 2. And phase 4 will be 6% more of phase 3. And phase 5 will be 6% more of... It just works like it is manipulated capital growth. Because every time I bought the first phase, for example, every time that they increase the price in the phases thereafter, my property's value is going up too. Because it's the same complex. Exactly the same. So right, now to answer that question, where do I get these properties? And how is it possible that the rent can be more than the rent can be more than the cost? It all depends on which phase you bought. If you bought in phase 6, then it's very unlikely that the rent will be more than the bond repayment and the cost because you bought too high. Eventually, there will be no shortfall. It will also reduce every year thanks to inflation. And after 3 or 4 years, you won't have a shortfall anymore. But initially, you might have to subsidize a shortfall, which is not the end of the world, guys. You can do the calculations. If there's a shortfall on a property, and you take it in regard with everything here in the long term, servicing that shortfall is still better, much better, like 100 times better than putting your money in a fund on a stock exchange. Really.
Well,
Neale, I hope that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. And, I think it's such important information because, on the one hand, you obviously have the property developer that wants to sell the property, whether it is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And, because normally there's a whole lot of successful phases. So really you've got to get first in and you've got to know what you're buying and you've got to know your numbers. So, and do your due diligence. That's essentially. So
can I add something to that?
Yes, of course. Yes.
One second.
Yes.
That point that you made there, that you have to get in early, that is so important. Most people are too late. So if you want to be in early, you have to be connected. You have to be part of a network. Because when they approach us, the developers, because they know that our members will take about the whole development eventually. Definitely the whole first phase. That we will sell it to our clients. But if you're not a member of the club, if you're not in that network, then you're going to miss that first phase. You're going to miss it always. Because if it is not my people picking it up first, then there'll be other property managers for their networks. Join a network. WealthMasters Club is one of those networks.
Absolutely. It's a team effort. So there's still one more question. It pertains, I think, to our finishing off here, Coert, and it's from Gabriel Buerta. And he said, would WealthMasters consider creating their own loan facility to members, or will any alternative financing methods, or will WealthMasters Club always use normal banks?
We have different methods. We will never finance or never provide bonds or grant bonds or something like that. No, simply because there's not enough money in it. I mean, if you grant a bond to somebody, he's paying you 10% per annum for 20 years. Goodness gracious, that is not money. We make more money than the banks with their own money. Banks should actually rather come and let from us how to make money. So no, we won't do that. But we have alternative methods, especially for when there are times to buy. You get buyer's markets and you get seller's markets, as you might know. So a seller's market is typically where the sellers benefit when they sell, so the property prices are high. A buyer's market is where the property prices are low. That's when we buy. So that is also when you're part of a network, then we will inform you guys. You might not even be aware of it, but look at the prices now. It's not time to buy. As Warren Buffett says, when people are greedy, you should be fearful, and when they are fearful, you should buy. So you should know when to buy, when people are fearful. Like, for example, the 2009 recession again, when people lost their jobs, that's a good time to buy. Then we buy second-hand, then we focus on second-hand properties, existing properties. We buy them on auctions, right? So that's an alternative way of buying property without, okay, you still need financing to buy that, like that one. But in a buyer's market like that, we have a product that we call ALA. ALA. It stands for Alienation of Land Act. Then we buy properties directly from the people in financial distress. And you don't have to apply for a bond. You get a bond, but you don't have to apply for it. You don't have to qualify for it, nothing. You just take over the bond of the person who is in financial distress. And the law protects the buyer and the seller, and the banks just have to agree. The law says the bank just have to be informed. You don't have to ask permission, nothing like that. But that is just, as I said, for short window periods like recessions and so on. Then we have a method to buy, where actually the seller can give the bond, or the existing bond of the bank is just taken over by the seller. It's a bit more complicated than what I'm sharing with you here. There's a whole chapter of that in our online course, of all the legal detail and requirements and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's still, and I'm gonna be, considerate to anybody. I'm gonna take one last question because we still got everybody that's on here. And so let's answer the question. It's a final question that I'm going to take. So thank you very much, audience. You've been really participative. And are you not concerned that levy increases get out of control? And what happens if capital growth stagnates? So,
yes, you see, all those things can happen for different reasons. Let's talk about the levies first. I really recommend that people become more involved in the body corporates. If not, another reason why you should have a property manager, because the property managers are involved in the body corporates as well. They can sit on a board, they can be a trustee of a body corporate, and all those things. So I recommend actually strongly always that my property managers be on the body corporates of the. It's like they cannot be on all of them, but on the bigger ones where I have many properties, so that we can have a say in the decisions taken in. So, because when levies have to be increased unreasonably, then it's because somebody stole the money, somebody did a bad job or paid too much for old services, or never increases the levies gradually every year with a small percentage. Now for years they didn't do anything, and then 5-10 years later they want to double it and triple it, and that can be very, very damaging to your cash flow. So right, that is get involved then with body corporates. Then you won't have a problem with unreasonable stuff like that. But capital growth, yes, as I said, in 57 years we had 3 negative years of capital growth, and those years we bought many, many properties. That is when I buy more than before. So that's a buyer's market. Then we cannot refinance, because if there's no positive growth on a property, then there's no equity. Equity is the difference between the outstanding bond amount and the value of the property. So if the value is not growing, the equity is not growing. That would make sense.
Excellent. Good, absolutely does. Cool. That's been very insightful. I think it really has been insightful, and I think you've given some really, really good golden nuggets. Let's not call them tips, because tips are for waiters. That's what Yanni Mouton used to tell me.
I like that.
So it's a golden nuggets, it's really golden nuggets of information that you can actually use over there. So thank you, Coert, very much for sharing all your insights today. Your knowledge and experience has been really inspiring, and to our audience, we really appreciate your active participation. And we encourage you to engage with Masterclass. We got your details. We will be sending them through. They will engage with you. If you don't engage with them, I know some of you have requested that they reach out to you, which they will. And so yes, so please, I encourage you to do that. It's been very insightful. Good, thank you once again. Just to our audience, before we close, I just want to remind you of our upcoming webinar next Wednesday. It's not today's a Tuesday, it's Wednesday. It's all these public holidays, so we've had to shift our sort of normal slot, our Thursday slot around. But we're talking about disrupting real estate, prop tech, and where it gets it wrong. So please join us next Wednesday, 12 to 1. And there are some couple exciting events. I mean, you also know Robert Kiyosaki is coming to South Africa again, I see, in May, Cape Town, and coming to Johannesburg. I think it's 18th to 19th of May, 26th and 27th of May as well in Johannesburg. But he's really just spreading a message. He's not there. He's not selling a book. He's not doing anything. He's literally coming to pop in. He's going hunting in between. So, and he likes to talk to people like yourself, Coert, and likes to share his message and that kind of stuff. And fundamentally, also WealthMasters supports that kind of thinking as well. You know, how Robert Kiyosaki. But I want to thank you again, Coert. I want to thank the audience. Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us. And until next week, next Wednesday, 12 o'clock, for our PropTech event. It's Coetzee of WealthMasters Club and Neale Petersen of Real Estate Investors signing out until next Wednesday. We see you then. Thank you. Cheers, everybody.